All right, call our meeting to order at this time. I will offer an invocation, and immediately after that, we will stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for allowing us to be able to come here and go about the business of our city and our community. Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us each and every day, and we just ask that you would be mindful of us and just have mercy upon us for our misgivings and our shortcomings and our sins. And we just ask that you would be with us each and every day, continue to guide us, direct us in the path that you would have us take. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm nervous. Next item is the approval of the business agenda. Someone's ready to make a motion. We can approve it as it is, or if we need to have any discussion or there's any conflict, please let us know at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to make a change.
Before you make your motion, we have one item for the public comment. Mr. Brodsky, was that going to be in your motion? Okay, go ahead.
Make a motion to remove public comment number 4 from the agenda and add an item under new business to consider a resolution of support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Steinbach. Do you hear a second to his motion? Second by Councilman Smith. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The agenda will be approved as it was amended. We do have one individual who signed up tonight for unscheduled public comment, Ms. Bowser. Ms. Bowser, if you would, as you all come to the podium, and we would ask that you would tell us your name and where you live, and we generally allow 3 minutes for unscheduled public comment. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Again, my name is Shawanda Bowser, and I currently live off of Everett School Road, but I'm in favor of my mother that currently stays in the Hargestown area off of Highway 158. My reason for being here today, I know I couldn't get on for the other because I missed the time, but I just wanted to share my thoughts and concerns about the property on Church, Spring, and Cotter Street that's up for sale. I understand that it's no longer going to be a residential area, that it may be commercial. And with having an elderly mother in that area and our surrounding church that I faithfully attend, which is First Baptist, my concern would be what business would I have in my mother's back door? What is the traffic going to look like? You know, what is going to happen in that area? Preferably would love it to stay as a residential if someone could build houses there and sell to low income. But if they're planning on bringing a business, what type of business would it be? Because I wouldn't want a car lot and somebody working on cars in the backyard of my mom's house. That can cause more traffic, more break-ins. So I'm just concerned about what is going to happen on that Spring and Cotter Street and Church Street, because I'm an advocate and I was born and raised in that area, and just want to make sure that we can keep it normalized as much as we possibly can. So I just want to come and embrace my concern about that. I know you can't answer any questions or anything, but hopefully you could take these things back with you and you can ponder on that information. I'm just standing in the need of my mom. I'm being an advocate for all those older people that is in that area. So just wanting to make sure that someone's voice is being heard on their behalf. And it's my due diligence, as my mother stays there, right there on the corner of top of Glover Street and 158. I'm 52 years old, born and raised there. Just want to keep it as simple as possible. But if a business has to come, what kind of business? What would it be? What commercial? And just want to state and just let you all know that someone in the area is concerned when we saw the signs go up. So we just wanted to see if there was any answers, was anybody involved, or what we can do to figure out exactly what's going on. Okay? So thanks so much for hearing my behalf, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comment.
Ms. Bowser and anyone else listening, we appreciate you coming out to the meeting. And in fact, you're a little bit early for us. So the planning department just received an application for rezoning, and so this will be taken up by the city council during its meeting on July the 16th. But there's properties where there's residential areas like Church Street, Carter Street, and that Spring Street area that are the subject of a rezoning request. And so the planning department is handling that, but it'll come before the city council July the 16th. And Kristen Anderson over here with the planning department, she'd be glad to answer any questions and provide information, but we'll make sure your comments go in that file.
That meeting would be held here. So it's an open meeting, so you can maybe get some more information at that time. All right, thank you. Item 5 is the approval of the June 4th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. We need a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the June 4th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes as drafted.
Okay, got a motion by Councilman Stainback and a second by Councilman Bell. Is there any more discussion on the matter? There is none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes will be approved as they are presented. I call on our clerk for Recreational Advisory Committee appointments.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. Ms. Maria Marie Diaz recently expressed interest in serving on a city committee. She has submitted a volunteer application for the Recreation Advisory Committee, which is enclosed in your packets. Ms. Marie Diaz is eligible, and there is currently a vacancy on the committee with a term that expires September 2025. City Council took a ballot vote, and she received a unanimous vote to be appointed. Therefore, I respectfully request City Council consider a motion to appoint Maria Marie Diaz to the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Okay, do we hear such a motion to appoint Ms. Diaz to the committee?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Maria Murray Diaz to the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Okay, have a motion by Councilwoman Bryant. Second to the motion?
Second.
I believe it was Mr. Bell. Second the motion. Any more discussion? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved.
Okay, thank you, Council.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Anderson for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor
Good
and
afternoon.
Council. Today we are here to discuss a land use ordinance amendment that was brought to us by Carita Capital Group LLC. They are petitioning the city to amend its zoning ordinance to rename and alter an existing multi-use outdoor recreation facility. This use is currently in the table of permitted uses in the Entertainment Overlay District. In this district, it was designed in 2005 and adopted by council. It was designed to be a unique district to allow for commercial areas that would enhance trades, tourism, job creation, capital investment, and for development of entertainment purposes. The Entertainment Overlay District has its own table of permitted uses, and that means it's only allowed within that district. Proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance must be submitted to the planning board for review first. Upon that, comment would be provided to council, and then at that point, the planning board's recommendation would not be binding to council. So no matter what the planning board has said or recommended at this point, it's not binding. You are able to make that decision, okay? It would be appropriate to open the hearing on the proposed ordinance amendments, to receive comments from citizens, and then to close the public hearing. At that point, you may deliberate, and then you may make a motion and a vote, okay?
Okay, with that being said, I would declare that the public hearing be open at this time to receive any comments from citizens.
As far as public notice goes, this was advertised in the newspaper on Saturday, June 15, 2004. It was also located on RR Spin and posted on our Roanoke Rapids website. Interested persons were encouraged to attend this meeting on June 18th or submit written comments. As of today, we have not received any comments. The proposed text amendment is for consideration for legislative changes regarding the use of the entertainment district as a multi-use outdoor recreation facility. However, the applicant wants to rename that. They would like to rename it to a multi-use indoor-outdoor entertainment recreation facility, and then they provide a definition. As of right now, this multi-use outdoor recreation facility provides no definition, so there's no direction when it comes to figuring out what that could be. In this definition, it provides lots of different ideas and different scenarios that may arise. Some of those are to permit a racetrack or racetracks, grandstands, concourses, concession stands, stables, kennels, and other accessory buildings, including but not limited to freestanding buildings or part of another building designed or identified as a place of public accommodation for the public of placing wagers on various sports competitions, included but not limited to golf, basketball, baseball, ice hockey, soccer, horse racing, whether flat, jump, or harness racing, greyhound racing, boxing, or martial arts, all as governed by Chapter 18C of the General Statutes of North Carolina. An additional permitted use of the multi-use facility is requested to also include an area for rodeos, horse shows, car, truck, monster truck shows, and competitions, as well as dirt bike races, bicycle races, and similar events. On page 2 of this, you'll see the table of permitted uses. There you'll see where the definition, the renaming of this has been changed, and the applicant is requesting this to be by right versus by special use permit. Right now, if the applicant were to approach us, they would have to come before council to get approval, as is. And then at that point, you could decide whether you wanted to place conditions on the property. Okay? If they do it this way, what will happen is there will be no city council approval. What they'll do is they'll come before the planning department, and then they would just be allowed to open. Okay?
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat what you just said.
So if you were to approve this tonight, it would be allowed by right. So the applicant, whoever that may be, may come to the planning department, may apply for one of these items listed. If it's included within this list, it would be permitted by right, meaning they would not have to get a special use permit or have a public hearing.
And if I may just clarify something, the planning, even though they wouldn't have to get a special use permit, they would still have to go through the planning department process.
Yes.
and have to go through the review
Yes, that's
process and
correct.
everything that happens at the planning department. So
Right.
it's not like a scenario where if this amendment was allowed, they could basically just submit the document and then go ahead and go forward. There's still an approval process that has to be
Right.
gone through. It's just it wouldn't have to come before city council for
Right. It would just be an administrative approval through the planning department, as well as any type of construction or site plans and things of that nature would also have to be approved through the planning department first. But it wouldn't have to have an additional step of coming before council prior to doing that.
Does that help you with your question, Ms. Bryant?
Yes, and you said this was already approved back in 2004?
In 2005, when the Entertainment Overlay District was created, it was created and it had a definition, or excuse me, a use in the table of uses as a multi-use outdoor recreation facility, but there was no definition. So at that point, it was very vague, I guess, for lack of a better phrase.
So now they're looking at more race
Correct.
type events,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
what I gather.
Yes, ma'am.
And so,
Yes, sir.
and so this would entail sports betting.
Correct. So it's listed several different uses and several different options, so it's a wide range of opportunity there.
But it's my understanding when I look and see Chapter 18C of the statutes, obviously they cannot do anything in the future
Correct.
that's not
Right.
approved
All
by
of
the
this
state
would
of
have to-
North Carolina.
Right, that would all have to be approved through
I
North
don't know
Carolina
if, some
first.
people may be overlooking that. I mean, they can't go out there if they have something listed in this list
Mhm.
and start doing it until it's,
Right.
authorized by the statutes.
Correct, and we've had similar situations, and I'll give you an example of internet sweepstakes. They may not be legalized in certain areas or by certain people, but by the zoning code, we had them with conditions. So even though they weren't allowed by the state or local police or whatever the case may be, if it was allowed by zoning code, we still had those stipulations we had to follow. Now, if they're not in compliance and the state doesn't approve them, then we still can't allow them to be there, whether it's in the code or not.
Anybody else have any questions of the planning director?
No, I kind of look at this as an advancement for the city of Roanoke Rapids if we can get stuff to go on 95, it would really help the city of Roanoke Rapids and the planning department. Everything wouldn't have come to city council, it could go through the planning department.
Yes, sir. At
Okay.
that point, if you approve it this way, it would not have to come before you guys to get approved. It would come directly to the planning department, and we would administratively, follow our codes and building codes and et cetera. Another thing for you to consider is the consistency with the land use plan. We developed a comprehensive land use plan back in 2014, and in that plan, we have to see if certain uses are compatible with the area. And so I've listed several of these that would be compatible. One would be to conduct overall review of the city's land use ordinance in concert with stakeholders to identify possible changes to streamline the permitting process and other potential revisions to make the ordinance more business-friendly. Prohibit encroachment by new and expanding commercial uses, viable existing or planned residential areas, to review and revise the city's land use ordinance to accommodate or encourage mixed-use development, to utilize mixed-use areas as a tool to aid in regulating and reducing strict commercialization, stimulate compact development, and encourage infill development, to consider expanding opportunities, both public and private, for employment procurement, to support economic and community development initiatives, to encourage new and expanding industries and businesses which diversify the local economy, utilize a more highly skilled labor force, and increase the area residents' income. And lastly, for economic development efforts, should encourage the revitalization and reuse of currently unused or underutilized structures, sites, and infrastructure. One thing that was not included in your packet that I handed out is a map of the Entertainment Overlay District. You'll see in the packet that it has like striped lines here. That represents the Entertainment Overlay District. Okay? So it's a lot of properties that are involved, not just one. It's several there. It's surrounded by residential and commercial, and it's adjacent to I-95. If you flip to the next page of that, you'll see in the purple that it shows the city of Roanoke Rapids. It shows our city limits. In the pink is Weldon, so you can just not look at that part. In the green shows who is impacted in that area. That's a 100-foot buffer. So should someone have to come in and apply for a permit, these are for all the sites. They would have to be notified by special use permit. I just wanted to make that clear for everyone so that you could see all the potential there. That's the entire entertainment overlay district. It's not subject to one parcel, it's several parcels. And that's kind of the range that it stands out to. Okay?
Each parcel would need a different permit? Could you say that again?
Each parcel would be affected, basically. So each of the ones in the green are a part of the entertainment district.
Right.
If anyone who owns property within the district would to decide to come and apply for a permit by a special use permit, then they would have to be notified. Everyone within 100 foot of that property would have to be notified. If it's by right, no one would have to be notified. It would just be administrative at that point.
So if I'm hearing
Go ahead.
hearing you correctly, this will affect people that are residing out there. Some of their properties are affected.
Some of them would be, yes, ma'am. But currently, they are located in that same district. If you'll flip back to the first page, they're also located in that entertainment district. So their properties would also be allowed to do the same thing, technically.
And based on how we vote determines whether they would even be notified? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Is that your,
Yeah, that answers.
it's
my
all of the
question.
property that's in the entertainment district in the city limits?
No. If you can see on the next page, on this page here, all of the properties that are located here that do not have the purple behind it, all of these properties are no longer in the city limits. They've been annexed, but they're part of our ETJ.
There were some properties back in 2011 that were de-annexed by the North Carolina General Assembly, and those are some of the residential properties that are existing out there that there's an additional overline. They're within our planning and zoning jurisdiction, but just not within city limits. And again, this is a request to amend our zoning code, and this has been submitted by an applicant. And so, unless you have any additional questions of the planning director, we may want to open it up to the public, and then we can continue asking questions as well for any public comment.
Well, you can come to the podium. We'd be glad to have you come. Okay, Mr. White had signed up. You want to come next, Mr. White? Does that conclude what you have right now?
Yes, at this point, you were able to deliberate after you hear public comment.
Okay.
In your packet, you'll see the motions that we allow. We have one motion for the statement of consistency, and the next motion is to adopt, approve with amendments, approve, deny, or no change to the proposed amendment. So subject to your questions, you may open this up.
Mayor Dowdy, members of the Roanoke Rapids City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William O. White, Jr., an attorney with the firm of Wellman & White, PLLC, 644 Roanoke Avenue, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, right across the street. Most of you may recall before the joint meeting of City Council and Roanoke Rapids Area Planning Board on September 5, 2023, that meeting resulted in casinos being added as permitted use in the entertainment overlay district. As I stated at that meeting, the theater was never intended to be a standalone venue for the district. While the theater is doing very well with the shows and other productions, the balance of the district needs to be developed. The politics of the 2023 regular session of the General Assembly did not permit the introduction of the legislative bill to permit 4 non-tribal casinos to be located in North Carolina. The location of one, according to the last draft, was to be in our entertainment district. It was hoped and remains our hope that this legislation will be introduced in the 2023 short session of the General Assembly. Currently, that hope may be fading unless both houses of the General Assembly recognize the projected tax revenue from the casinos as a means to balance the budget. The 2023 regular session of the General Assembly, however, did enact Session Law 2023-42, entitled An Act to Authorize and Regulate Wagering on Professional, College, and Amateur Sports and on live horse racing in North Carolina, and to authorize live horse racing in North Carolina. As a side note, it was either 11 or 13 participants in this year's Kentucky Derby traced their lineage back to Sir Archie. Side note. This session law added Article 9 entitled Sports Wagering and Article 10 entitled Parimutuel Wagering to Chapter 18C of the General Statutes. Both Article 9 and Article 10 became effective January 8, 2024. It is noted that Section 14-380.5, which is our criminal code of the General Statute, was added to read that horse racing is not prohibited. Article 9 of Chapter 18C was written in great detail, and the requirements, pages 276 to 301 in the General Statutes. Sports wagering must be in a permanent place of public accommodation, which is defined as venues where in-person wagering is offered. These venues are associated with sports venues and are subject to the rules, regulation, and enforcement by the North Carolina State Lottery Commission. Article 10 contained only a skeleton of the requirements for parimutuel wagering. It started at the bottom of page 301 and ended at 307. The first sentence of Section 18C 1025, which is the final paragraph of Article 10, reads in part, "The Commission," meaning the North Carolina State Lottery Commission, "shall adopt rules governing the conduct of horse racing in the state." Legislation has been drafted to require the State Lottery Commission to publish its proposed rules by January 1, 2025. Now, who knows how State Lottery Commission may push back on that deadline. The last draft of the legislation that I've reviewed also requires the State Lottery Commission and the Department of Commerce jointly to study the impacts of live horse racing and wagering on economic development and tourism in this state, with a focus on Tier 1 counties. The study would include any recommendations as to how to market the resources of the Tier 1 counties for horse racing, including the development of horse tracks, training facilities, breeding facilities, tourism associated with equestrian activities, and any other matters related to bringing horse racing to the state. The proposed deadline for the Lottery Commission to report the joint findings to the General Assembly is no later than February 15, 2025. When the General Assembly enacts legislation to govern the requirements for horse racing and horse tracks, my client believes that if this track could be located in the Entertainment Overlay District, then through a coordinated efforts of the Lottery Commission, Department of Commerce, Halifax County Tourism, Halifax County Development, and others, our Tier 1 county could benefit greatly from a coordinated plan as to how to best market the development of a horse track with training and breeding facilities. The economic impact associated with equestrian activities, sports wagering, and many other activities will be significant for our city and our county. The current definition of multi-use outdoor recreation facility is renamed to multi-use indoor-outdoor entertainment recreation facility and reclassified as a permitted use. My client believes that it has the contacts to make this permitted use a reality, provided, of course, that the General Assembly passes the required legislation and the State Lottery Commission does not make the requirements too burdensome. Time is always of the essence in development, and a venture may disappear if hearings are required to permit the use. We have drafted the permitted use as broadly as possible to permit other activities if the horse track is not enacted.
Thank you, Mr.
They're
White.
talking serious money. For applications for a sports betting is basically $1 million. They're talking with these breeding facilities and training facilities, not counting the track, a minimum of $100 million. So it will be a significant impact. What my clients are trying to do is keep as many possibilities open as possible. And I'll answer any questions anybody has.
Questions of Mr. White? Very interesting information you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, I believe you said you'd like to make a comment at the hearing?
Yes, sir.
If you would just come, when you come to the podium, state your name, where you live at.
Good afternoon. Name David Singleton. I'm out there at the area of what they was talking about, where they wanted to put the casino and all that stuff out there. And we is in a residential area out there. And it is right across from where they are doing all this planning. And we haven't heard anything about this until I was told just to come over here today and just listen. I wasn't really ready to speak until I found out more information on what I was going to speak about. And what I really would like to know, what they is going to do with the residential area that is out there. And we've been out there for a while. We ran through this once before and had a big problem with it. We are not trying to really relocate, and we are not really trying to make it hard for the city as well. But they have put us back in residential area, which we were in the city. And it seemed like we about to go about getting the same thing happen again. So I would like to have more information on what they are talking about so I can get a general idea of what's really going on. Because they haven't said anything to us about what they are doing out there. It was just a guessing game for us. And I'm sitting right across the street looking at it.
Is this anything that we discuss in the hearing, or do we give this gentleman some information at a later time?
I think right now is an appropriate time because we're talking about the method of permitting that would be in place. Because right now, a special use permit is required for, what you may want to call more intense activities. And so
Thank you.
The purpose of making it a permissible use would be to take that component out of it, and basically when things are permitted by right, the city council is making a statement of that these are the particular uses that we could see fit to be in this area, but you still have to go through certain development processes of appropriate regulatory agencies. But right now, we're not considering an application. An application for any specific development is not before you, but it's a amendment to our zoning code that says what is allowed out there on certain pieces of property. And then certain pieces of property they're all various shapes and sizes and so forth. And so only certain uses will be allowed in certain land areas, if that makes sense.
So would it be appropriate to tell Mr. David at this time we're not giving more information because we don't have more information to give on what exactly may be there? This is just an initial initial step to determine what possibly could come to that area. Is that
So in
fair
the
to say?
future, what I would say then, we need to be known what is coming and notified by rights. We do. So really, I mean, it's going to affect us just as much as it's going to, benefit you all. So we need to know on what we need to do. What is the appropriate thing that we need to do? Because there's a lot of people staying out there. And it's not right for them to not know what's going to go on in their community and not be told about it. So that's what I was getting at. And I haven't heard nothing about it, which is strange, except for when they did tell us they was going to rezone that area.
Well,
But for
this
what
is a
reason?
public hearing, so this is a time when you
Right.
are learning something about it, and
Yeah.
you're able to make your request to the council, that type of thing.
Well,
I
that's
really
what
don't
I'm-
think that we can give you any more information at this time.
Okay, so.
But there will, as the planning director was saying, when there is an application or something's coming, the people in that immediate area would be notified.
Yeah, and we need to
Am
know
I
what to
correct
do it
on what you're saying,
ahead
what
of
I'm saying?
time before things happen.
With a special use permit, you would be notified. If it's allowed by right, you would not be notified. However, if someone does provide a development plan, we at the planning department could notify you of that, but we would not be required.
So therefore, whatever you decide to do out there, we have no choice about it, right?
That, if it's permitted by right, it would be allowed through the zoning code,
Well, we need to know what that right might be.
which would be allowed with the special use permit. Everyone in 100 foot of the parcel would be notified. So if the parcels are across the the entertainment overlay district, and you're over here, not in 100 foot, you still would not be notified.
I am in within 100 foot, almost.
Right, it depends on the parcel that they would want to do, because this is spread out through the entire district.
I understand.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you for your comments today,
Thank
and
you.
Mr.
stay in
Singleton?
touch.
Mr. Singleton?
I am.
Excuse me, sir. Could you, this is a public hearing, and so we would need your address, if you could give that to the clerk.
That is 266 Wallace Fork Road, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina.
I couldn't get that.
Thank you, sir. Just a procedural requirement. Thank you.
266.
Not trying to put
Thank
your
you.
business out there.
I still didn't get his name, his last name. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at the public hearing tonight? Be appropriate at this time to close the public hearing, and if we have any more discussion amongst the council. So at this time, I would declare that public hearing be closed. Let me get to my paper here. Page 4.
Mayor, it would be appropriate at this time to have discussion amongst the council, as well as we are looking for two items tonight. One for a statement of consistency, to see if what the applicant is requesting is consistent with the items provided in your agenda packet, as well as the entertainment overlay district. The second would be for a motion to adopt the ordinance as provided to you. That would be with no changes. You could make an approval with amendments to that. You would just need to state what those conditions are if you choose to amend it. You could deny the amendment, or you can make no change.
Okay. So at this time, we would call for a motion to adopt this statement of consistency.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to adopt this statement of consistency concerning the adoption of the amendment to the land use ordinance allowing multiple use indoor-outdoor entertainment recreation facility.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Smith. Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bell. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. That motion would be approved. And then we would need a motion to consider the adoption for the proposed text amendment to the land use ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask, is this where we could put in special use? Is this where that would go?
So, you could, as Ms. Anderson said, you could make you could propose an amendment to the recommended ordinance to place where it be a permitted via special use, and then go ahead and approve the change in definition. You would need to, whoever made the motion, if that was the intent, would need to move to amend and specify that in there.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm ready for the motion.
Okay, I'll call for a motion again. Did that answer your question, Brian?
Not really.
Well, we got a motion on.
This is the time if anybody's going to move to amend the.
I think Mr. Singleton brought up a good point. I want to know if we approve this, if people that are still residents out there, I think they at least need the courtesy of being notified. So if that is part of a special use, then that is what I want included in the motion. Because it was stated that the residential area is part of the overlay. Isn't that what you can, so that means that any and all of that land can be acquired without any, no? Help me.
I think the land could always be acquired.
Right.
Without anything. It's just whether the land use could be converted to a different use. And so if right now, because there's really, I think I can break it down there's two pieces of the draft that's presented to council tonight. And the first part of that is changing the definition to incorporate racetracks and things like that. And the second part would change it from being a permitted by a special use permit to permitted by right. And so, and I think you can really kind of break down the two pieces into those two elements. And so, right now, as it is, if somebody were going to go out there and do a use such as that, if it fit in with that vague definition that we have right now, it would not be permitted by right. That is, they would have to come before City Council and ask for a special use permit. As drafted, this would change that and remove that. So it would be permitted by right, which would mean there would be no City Council action. There would be no notice to individuals that live nearby, as there would in a special use permit hearing. There would be no public hearing. Now, there are still, the planning board would still have to review site plan, or the planning board, the planning department here at the city would still have to review site plans and make sure that it complies with the other aspects of our zoning code. And that's everything from frontage to parking to all the other kind of things that we have as far as zoning and site plans. But so yes, if as it is drafted, it would change it to where it's by right, and again, with by right, there would be no notification to adjoining landowners.
So if there's no right by adjoining landowners, because I was under the impression that it was just going in the area, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was the outdoor, they used it in the past for outdoor concerts.
Well, but
So it's more than that, is what I'm understanding
yes, just
now.
to be clear, this is amending the whole entertainment overlay district and adding that in. It would go not just for the place that was the piece of property, that parcel that was formerly used as a
Outdoor concerts.
kind of concert venue, but it would go for everything in that entertainment overlay district, all of that map that the planning director showed you.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
think
sir.
I had the floor to make a motion. I don't know whether it still stands or not.
Would you restate your motion?
The motion that I was going to make is motion to adopt ordinance number 2024.10 for the purpose of text amendments to the land use ordinance, allowing multiple use indoor, outdoor entertainment recreation facility as submitted.
Okay, do we have a second to Councilman Smith's motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Steinbeck. Is there any more discussion at this time on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no.
No.
Did you vote?
I want more, no.
Okay.
It's not that I'm not in favor of going forward, but I do think that if we're gonna go out and incorporate areas where people are living, they at least need to have some type of input.
Yes.
They need to be notified.
Okay. The vote has been tallied, and I believe it passed 3-2. All right. Any more discussion would be at a later time.
I just want to add, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, but while, this decision is effective, immediately, the submission of plans is a public, they are publicly available. And, we try to do our best whenever there's any new development proposed to talk about it in open sessions and things like that. But however, the administrative process of the method is now been changed, but if we determine that things need to be changed back, again, things can come back to the council, but it doesn't change right now.
I'll kind of tie into that, if I may, for the public. We meet twice a month here in City Council, and at least once a month there is a report from the planning director that is part of the City Council packet that is public information. And generally that gives a pretty detailed explanation of new businesses, planning activities here in the city. And so I just say that for the purposes of the public, in that document can be very informative about if you see a new building getting built down the street from you, if you see some renovations going on, even in a residential house near you, that can a lot of times give you a little bit of a heads up on what's going on with it or at what part of the process it is. So that's just a little bit of public information there.
Okay. Item 8 is new business, and for that I would call on First Sergeant, I believe, Williams to come forward, and we'll have a resolution. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Appreciate you putting this on the agenda, adding it to it. I'm First Sergeant Williams, North Carolina State Highway Patrol, assigned to Troop C District 8 here in Halifax and Northampton counties. I'm here on behalf of North Carolina State Highway Patrol to present this resolution requesting the North Carolina Department of Transportation to dedicate the NC Highway 125 bridge at Interstate 95 in the city of Roanoke Rapids as the Patrolman Ralph W. Arnold Bridge. Ralph W. Arnold, he was employed in 1929 as a patrolman with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, and he was one of the charter members of the patrol. He was assigned to Halifax County, and Patrolman Arnold was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident while on patrol near Roanoke Rapids in Halifax County and passed away on September 17th, 1936. And for that, we ask that the town clerk be authorized and directed to file this resolution with the NC Department of Transportation and any other appropriate agencies and individuals.
All right, thank you, sir. We would need a motion to approve the resolution. Someone would like to move?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-06 to name the NC Highway North Carolina Bridge and Interstate 95 as the Patrolman Ralph W. Arnold Bridge.
All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Bryant. Do we have a second to a motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Come again. Mr. Chalker on the North Carolina DOT sweeping agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. I kind of slipped one in on me there. I didn't know what order we were in. I bring before you a consideration of an extension of our current sweeping agreement. That's agreement number 11587 with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Basically, NCDOT pays us to sweep the Gaston Bridge down here on the river right by the paper mill. We are able to go sweep other areas upon their request, but we would do that anyway. But NCDOT allows no more than $9,600 per year for us to sweep this bridge using our street sweeper. So the action requested is for you to consider a motion to extend this current sweeping agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for a period of 1 year, and that would be through June 1, 2025, and also to authorize Mayor Dowdy to execute the attached letter. And I'll answer any further questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Chalker? If not, we take a motion at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the sweeping agreement number 11587 with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for a period of 1 year from June 1st, 2025, and to authorize Mayor Dowdy to execute the attached letter.
All right, motion by Councilman Bell, second to his motion. Second by Councilwoman Bryant. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those no, the motion be approved. All right. Chief Guy.
Good evening. How are you? I come to you tonight reference to Resolution 2024.04. This is consideration of the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Grant Resolution. The Roanoke Rapids Police Department has submitted and been tentatively approved for a 3-year grant from the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Commission. The grant funds the purchase of equipment and pays the officer's salary and fringe benefits to combat driving issues and reduce fatalities within Roanoke Rapids. This officer will devote 100% of their time enforcing traffic-related laws, impacting reductions in motor vehicle accidents, lowering traffic-related injuries and deaths, and increasing seatbelt usage, and detecting and arresting DWI offenders. Full transparency with the resolution that is issued to you, this is a federal grant that is maintained by the Governor's Highway Safety Program, so the beginning of the grant would begin on October the 1st and would run for a full federal fiscal year. The second and third year, we would also have to reapply for the grant, automatic approval, and the price fluctuates second and third year. I'm going to try to give you a little estimate of that. What is here before you tonight is a local resolution for year 1 grant, which we've been tentatively approved, and the purchase of the equipment that goes along with this grant and paying the officer's first year salary. This is an 85%, 15% grant, matching grant. The federal government, as part of the grant, would pay for $115,090, and the city's part would be $20,310 for the first year. The second year, in full transparency, fiscal year 25-26 would be a 75-25% match. Would not be buying any equipment the second or third year as far as a vehicle and things like that goes. That's all front end heavy on the front part of the grant. But we would be paying for the officer's salary, which would be 75-25% match. The third year of the grant would be fiscal year 26-27. That is a 50-50% match, very similar to that as the second year. So in all totals, estimated with the 3 years involved in the grant, we would have received $293,000 in an officer and equipment. $213,500 of that would be paid by the federal government, and $79,500 will be paid by the city of Roanoke Rapids. After that third year, the conclusion of that grant, the city could absorb that position as a regular officer, and we have several frozen positions when I came in as chief. So that is an option for us in a 3-year period. So tonight before you is just a local government resolution that is talking about the first year of this grant, and that is asking permission to consider this resolution so that we can move forward with our grant proposal that we've been tentatively awarded. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those, but before you is this resolution that says that $115,090 will be funded by the federal government, and the city of Roanoke Rapids will be responsible for $20,310 in the first year of this grant. And the city manager has assured me that this money is set aside for this particular grant purchase for our first year.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of the police chief?
I'd just like to make a statement. I want to commend the chief on doing this grant. As I read in the the pre-information that we were sent and looked at the statistics, it's going to cover one of our major areas where we had the most traffic going up and down through the middle of town from toward 95 on back. And it just surprised me when I looked at statistics of how many arrests had been made prior to the chief coming on, and then versus since he's been here the last year. And knowing that when you think about safety, and that's one of the first things that always supposed to happen, safety, the city council looks out after the residents and the people who are coming in and out of the city. And so I definitely would like to commend you on that.
Thank you very much, sir. Our officers are working very hard. And if you've noticed in the grant package, if you saw that, we've got a lot of issues with driving in our city. We've got too many people getting killed behind the wheel in this area. We rank pretty high on fatalities and other DWI and other traffic-related issues in North Carolina. Our insurance is affected. Our car insurance is affected by all of this. And you drive drunk in this city, we're going to catch you, plain and simple. And DA's office, we hope they do what they need to do, but we're determined to do everything we can to stop this. And thank you for your support.
All right. Okay, we need a motion to accept this resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to consider motion to adopt resolution number 2024.04, accepting North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program grant.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Bell and a second by Councilman Steinbach. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Thank you all. Call on the Finance Director, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening. I have several budget amendments for donations to like our fire department, our police department. So I'll start out with the first one is ordinance number 2024-11. It is to consider a motion to adopt budget amendment in the amount of $4,739. To our fire department. This is for our veterans breakfast and other things that they've done.
Any question on this? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance number 2024.11 in the amount of $4,739 for donations to the fire department.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Steinbach. Do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any more discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That would be approved.
Okay, and I'm just trying to clean everything up before we hit June 30th. The next one is, ordinance number 2024-12. Consider a motion to adopt, a budget amendment, in the amount of $180 to the police department.
Okay. Anybody questions on this? If not, have a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to consider a motion to adopt the budget amendment, ordinance number 2024-12, in the amount of $180 for donations to the police department.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Strickland. Second to his motion.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be carried.
Okay, the next, ordinance number is 2024-13. This is for, unauthorized substance tax, money that was received from the state to our police department in the amount of $13,503.16.
Questions? If not, call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance number 2024.14 in the amount of $8,604 for funds received for the library state aid children's program and Friends
You
of the
jumped ahead.
Oh, I'm on, I beg your pardon.
1-3.
I did
I'm
the
so
wrong
glad
tab.
you did that. I thought I was the only one making mistakes like
No,
that.
I'll have to write that one down.
For the $13,000.
Get that in,
I got it.
get that in the minutes.
Thank you.
folks.
It's already recorded.
All right.
Make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance number 2024.13 in the amount of $13,503.16 for funds received related to the OSC unauthorized substance tax.
Okay, got a motion by Councilman Steinbach. Second to the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bryant. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion be carried.
Last one is, for the library, ordinance 2024-14. This is, library state aid, donations to our children's program, and donations to the Friends of the Library, in the amount of $8,604.
All right, if no discussion, call for a motion.
Mr.
Make,
Mayor,
okay, go ahead.
this will be the second, I'm getting good at this now.
Yeah, go for it.
Make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance 2024.14 in the amount of $8,604 for funds received for the library state aid, children's program, and the Friends of the Library donations.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Steinbach. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bryant. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. That motion will be approved also. And Ms. Calder on personnel policy. Good afternoon, evening.
While Ms. Cottle's on her way up there, I just want to acknowledge that this has been a significant undertaking that has been accomplished in a pretty short turnaround amount of time, and just want to recognize and appreciate Ms. Christina Cottle's efforts in this, and as well as the efforts by our department heads and staff to help turn this around, because this is a very important document to our operations and one that's approved by the city council. So we hope that you all will find the changes acceptable that are being presented.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. As Kelly just mentioned, and hopefully you previously knew, Human Resources has been working with the MAPS Group, which is the preferred vendor of the North Carolina League of Municipalities, to update the city's personnel policy. Our current policy became effective January 1st, 2008, with the last revision dated March 16th, 2021. Recognizing that many employment laws and practices have changed since 2008, our number one project goal with this update is to comply with any rules, regulations, mandates, court interpretations, and various other employment laws that govern personnel administration. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through line by line with everything we've updated, but just know that we took that as our number one goal, and we've addressed that from page 1 to page 55. Additionally, we recognize that there's a severe need to modernize certain policies and procedures to better align with current city operations. So over the last month or so, my department has worked with department heads. Thank you very much, because you've looked at many revisions, finance staff, payroll, and the city attorney to go through any internal drafts of proposed changes of the city personnel policy. So tonight, I just want to highlight a couple major changes. In Article 1, we have added basically responsibilities outside of City Council. So we've created a list for the city manager, we've created a list for the Human Resources Director, we've created a list for department heads, and we've also created a list for city employees of their responsibilities and roles as it relates to personnel. In Section 3, or Article 3, which is the pay plan, the biggest change here is under Section 11, which is overtime provisions. Those were updated to meet Fair Labor Standard Act, which is FLSA, and also GASB 101, which is Carmen's wheelhouse, to discuss compensated leaves of absences and what time is due to our employees. So those have been updated and will reflect those current or upcoming policies. Under Article 5, which is conditions of employment, this is where we were lacking a lot of current or today's policies. So some things we did. In Section 8, we expanded the workplace harassment definition. And then we added, starting with Section 13, some policies that were very much needed in this book. So we included the whistleblower protection policy, a technology policy, the Pump Act, which is for nursing mothers, and a local policy for smoking inside city facilities and city vehicles. In Article 6, which is employee benefits, the biggest thing here that changed is in Section 13, and that is the retiree insurance. So as you know, our current policy states that if we have a city employee that has spent 20 years of their local government service with us and retires with a full or unreduced benefit with the local government, that we will pay their health and dental until they become eligible for Medicare at age 65. The change here basically addresses that policy is still going to exist for our current employees, but any new hire after December 31st of 2025 will no longer be eligible for this program. So we are in effect sunsetting the retiree insurance benefit. So again, any employees that are employed currently, full-time, and any that are hired between, if we adopt this policy, through December 31st of 2025 will be eligible, but then anyone hired starting January 1st of 2026 or later will no longer be afforded that benefit. Article 7, which is holidays and leaves of absences. There are some major changes in this article as well. Section 2, you'll see our holiday schedule. We are going to follow the state of North Carolina schedule if you adopt this policy as presented. What that does is it basically removes Columbus Day, which we are currently observing, and then guarantees 3 days off for Christmas each year, and that will be determined each calendar year by the State Human Resource Office. Halifax County decided to do this last year. We just think it's the right thing to do. And then because we're removing Columbus Day, and there's several other holidays that we're not currently observing, we did add a floating holiday, which will be 1 day per calendar year that has to be scheduled in advance with the supervisor. That is listed in Section 5. Additionally, we separated bereavement leave. Under the current policy, it's part of the sick leave plan, and you have to use your sick leave time. So we removed that and created a separate bucket of time for a maximum of 3 days per calendar year for bereavement leave. And then we also added, under Section 26, a parental or volunteer leave, which is 8 hours per calendar year as well. And then the rest of the changes were really to streamline processes under Article 9 for disciplinary action and Article 10 for our grievance procedure. We've had a ton over the last probably 5 to 10 years discussion about how it's written in our current policy versus how it actually functions in daily operations. So we have addressed those needs, streamlined the procedural process, and made it more functional for both employees and managers. So in essence, the bones are still the same, but how it's actually functioning in daily operations is now reflected in the policy. Are there any questions about any of those highlights or anything else that you've seen in the policy that I could address tonight?
A comment on, I know over the years we have, as a council, we have stressed the importance of, as you say in Section 5 under Article 3 here, performance evaluation and keeping up with those type things. So in the event, it could be a positive thing like a merit raise or that type thing, or it could be a negative where it's, some disciplinary action needs to be taken with an employee. So I would really want to see us adhere to that. And then the other thing that I just learned, I think I learned if I read right, under Section 13, where it's talking about retiree insurance. So can a person, say hypothetically, they come to work at age 18 and they work 20 years and they retire, not on disability, nothing wrong with them, they just retire from the city at age 38. we are paying their health insurance until they reach 65 years old now?
So they still would have to get an unreduced benefit through the local government retirement system. So if they started at age 18, they would have to work 30 years of service. So
But it says on here with unreduced benefit.
right, an unreduced benefit per the local government system is 30 years, or a combination of physical age and years of service. So, for example, if they started as a firefighter at age 18, 30 years later, they become eligible for an unreduced or full local government benefit. We, under our current policy, would pay for their Blue Cross Health and Dental until they become Medicare eligible, which is age 65. So that's a tremendous amount of time that we're supporting their health and dental insurance needs. But they have also given us a tremendous amount of time working for the city. So it's a trade-off that we've looked at as a benefit for recruitment and retention. You could also, I'll just use myself as an example. I started at age 31, so I was not smart enough to start in local government right out of college. So 30 years for me is going to be age 61. So there's only 4 years, so a much shorter window between when I'm eligible for an unreduced local government benefit and I'm Medicare eligible at 65. I have to stay here the whole time. So if I go and work for another local municipality in the state of North Carolina, I may still get my unreduced 30 years of local government service, but I wouldn't get the city's health and dental benefit. And then anybody that starts January 1st, 2026 or later no longer will get that benefit. Also, if a current employee chooses to leave and comes back, say in 3 to 4 years, they realize the grass isn't greener on the other side, that benefit could be gone for them. So it will have some impacts. And I think it addresses something that council has definitely talked about, at least since I have been in this role, as something we need to look at and potentially sunset.
So even if you have 30 years of service, like your situation, and you retire
Right.
before you're 65,
Correct.
we do not pay your insurance that last 4 years? Or
You
we do, or we do,
would.
or we do if you have 30 years?
Correct. So if I stay with the city of Roanoke Rapids for the remainder of my local government career, which means age 61, based on my current situation, if I stay here the whole time, I'm still eligible for that program. And you guys would hopefully pay for health and dental until I become Medicare eligible at 65. Now, if I left and say I went to Halifax County and then decided I would come back, and I came back after this program sunsets, I would no longer be eligible for that. But anyone that is currently employed full-time has that benefit, so we felt it important to keep that benefit active, but we are sunsetting the program so anybody hired after that effective date can no longer access it. It's very similar to what we did with the longevity program several years ago.
And I want to add too, but we do still, I think where he was coming up with the 20-year thing was about retirees being able to purchase, they'll be able to maintain their health insurance coverage if they pay our rate for it.
They can get into the plan.
So they can
Yes.
remain on our plan if they have less than, a reduced, if they don't qualify for a full retirement benefit, then and they've worked a certain amount of time, then yes, they can actually stay on the plan, but they would have to individually pay that monthly.
Yes, so that Kelly brings a good point. That will still remain active. So if they just roll into a retiree status, they could pay what the premiums are. So the city would no longer have that financial responsibility. It would still continue.
Kind of like Cobra.
Yes, very much. Very similar. They potentially could if they separate from us and then come back, because they may choose to go work at a different local government. So any one of the 100 counties in the state of North Carolina and any incorporated community or municipality in the state of North Carolina is in the same North Carolina local government retirement program. So once you become a member in that system, no matter where you're working, as long as they're part of that system, your time is ticking. So you're accruing years of service. They would not lose their local government benefit, but they would potentially lose the city benefit for paid health and dental.
I have a question. Isn't
Yes,
there
sir.
a provision in the retirement system to retire at 60 if you have 20 years?
So there is a combination of physical age and years of service. Typically, unless you file under disability, you can't get a 20-year period in with us to become eligible. Law enforcement is a little bit different as well. Law enforcement retirement laws have changed in the last handful of years, so they can retire as early as age 55 with an unreduced benefit. But again, our city program still says you have to have 20 of those 30 years with us. So the probability is very low that somebody could squeak out the city benefit and still retire with 20 years. And then per state statute, if you file for local government unreduced retirement benefit under disability, we have to pay for their health and dental until they turn age 65. That is not our program, that's the local government. So that we cannot change.
I still don't quite understand it, but
It's, the mayor says, it's kind of running along with a lot of things the state does and a lot of agencies now, also because, like she was talking about ages, for instance, state, you get full retirement, you can be 65 and have 20 years, your combination 85 years old, but you have to have at least the 20. So a lot of things are running concurrent. The state has already started that sunsetting the health insurance in retirement. They started doing that, I believe was January 1st, 2022.
That's
we've been
right.
talking a good while about when individuals retire, and we've actually had some people brought up some scenarios that they had been retired and the city was paying their insurance for years and years and years, hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month. And they can retire at a fairly young age and go somewhere else and work 15 or 20 more years and be on another place health insurance. And I don't know if that's a law or if that's just something that we are providing as a bonus. But if it's a situation that, I mean, you can't foresee how much that's going to cost you in years to come. You know about the what they're going to draw for their retirement, that type thing, but the insurance is, you just don't know. And so, but the way I read it here, it sounds like if somebody retires with 20 years, no matter how old they are, let's say they're 50, we're going to pay the insurance premium for 15 more years. Am I reading that correctly?
If they get an unreduced local government retirement and 20 years of service with us. So they have to spend essentially the last 20 years of their local government career with us. Typically, it's their entire local government career.
Well, how did they not get a reduced benefit if they only work 20 years instead of 30 years?
Because the local government retirement system looks at your physical age as well. So they will allow certain individuals to retire with an unreduced benefit if they started later in life.
But the unreduced benefit is figured on 20 years, not 30.
Correct.
So it's
That's right.
significantly less than you.
Oh, they still get less money.
They're still,
Okay.
so a lot of times, every individual is different, but they may choose to continue to work. Just because they are at the unreduced level according to the state treasurer's office doesn't mean that they are not capable of working. So they may choose to continue their career.
I want to add here too, the particular attention needs to be paid to the last sentence of that section that says employees hired after December 31st, 2025 will no longer be eligible for the city's post-employment group health and dental insurance plan. So we're phasing out the retiree insurance, but due to property rights and things like that and negotiations with prospective employees right now, we've set a date that says, all right, after this date, retirees will no longer have their health insurance paid if they start after that date. But for current employees, this does not affect them.
Okay, well, I don't think I had turned the page and read that, but that's pretty much what I was looking for, what we've been discussing for a good while. Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, legally, I think we would have a lot of problems if we tried to take something away from our current employees such as this.
We
And
never
that-
talked about
Yeah, and I know
doing
that, and I know that's never been on the table, but just for clarity for everyone, that's never been on the table, and that's not on the table. And the reason we're giving this window, as it was proposed, was to make sure that, everybody kind of understands that there is a sunset period, but it's not going to hit for a little while, to give everybody time to get used to that.
Okay, thank you all.
Are there any other questions or concerns I can address at this time? If there's no further discussion, I would request that council consider a motion to adopt resolution number 2024.05, approving the updated city personnel policy. If approved tonight, this resolution would repeal and replace the current policy with the updated personnel policy effective July 1, 2024.
I'd like to make a motion
Yes, sir.
to adopt resolution number 2024.05, approving the updated personnel policy as stated by Ms. Cobb.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Bell, and second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any more discussion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Thank you, ma'am. And our last item is on the fiscal year 24-25 budget, and I will call on the city manager for a presentation on that.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Proposed before you is the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget ordinance, or ordinance number 2024.15. For your consideration, the budget process has followed the letter of the law for the general statutes as far as public inspection and display and presentation processes. The City Council held its public hearing earlier this month on June the 4th, and no additional citizen input has been received at this time, but our budget as drafted remains the same, with a operating budget out of the general fund of $19,861,646. That does include the $952,140 for the theater payment. So less that, our general fund budget is closer to $18,853,171. The ordinance accomplishes the following. It sets forth the anticipated revenues for the general fund and other funds as well, including the pool and the drug enforcement fund. Sets forth our anticipated revenues, and specifically the tax rate at 0.641 cents per 100 of assessed value, which is 2 cents less than the current rate after the property revaluation by Halifax County. The authorized expenditures under the ordinance fund the department operations, including some much-needed past due deferred maintenance, includes some street resurfacing funds, a 3% cost of living adjustment for our employees, as well as other funding initiatives to make some improvements at our facilities and parks as well. Ordinance 2024.15 also establishes a fee schedule for the fiscal year that will begin on July the 1st and end on June the 30th of 2025. There have been no changes to the fees in the fee schedule for users of our facilities and of our services and so forth. The ordinance adopts the salary schedule that would include the 3% cost of living adjustment as well, and set forth actions for the upcoming fiscal year as we are nearing the end of our current one. And again, other than that, there really haven't been any other major changes. So subject to your questions, that concludes my presentation. be happy to take any questions at this time related to adoption of the ordinance. Otherwise, a motion and a vote would be appropriate.
Anybody have any questions of the city manager? There being none, I call for a motion to approve this budget.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2024-25 budget ordinance number 2024.15.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Stainback and a second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any more discussion to the matter? I would just like to go on record as saying I don't have a problem with the dollars that we're spending. I do have some issues with the way that they're being spent. I'm more concerned that the citizens seem to be maybe overlooked in some of the issues such as safety, a lot of the physical capital needs that we have. Things that concern me about, we spoke earlier in this meeting about some things that might come to our community and be like a kind of a windfall for us, like we received from the COVID money and federal money and those types of things. But some of the other things that we were presented in the revenue schedules, with the sales tax for one was decreasing, license and motor vehicle license tags was decreasing. Actually, people, buying cemetery lots is decreasing, and our population is decreasing. It just concerns me that we may be spending money in things that we want, but we maybe cannot afford, which we pretty much all have to live with that in our normal daily lives. But that's just my opinion. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion be carried. And your report, Ms. Trainum?
Yes, I will send this out to you in email as well, so you have the notes. But I want to first off just say thank you to our staff and to the council for adoption of the ordinance for the budget upcoming fiscal year. There's a lot of activities that we intend to complete during that fiscal year time, and look forward to the ease of implementation in budget years going forward after that. Secondly, I want to recognize the local organization called Feed a Family First. They have provided snacks and drinks to our summer camp programs. Parks and Recreation Department is facilitating 12 different programs this summer, throughout the summer, for various ages of students, and want to extend our gratitude to Feed a Family First organization for the donation of a snack and drink, because children like my own that are out at baseball or some of these other camps, they love to have a snack at the end of practice or something. So it's very much appreciated for all. And anyone with any questions or questions about registration for camps needs to contact the Recreation Department as well. Starting sometime this week, the educational signage along the canal trail is going to be replaced and updated. Most of it is probably original or has faded out, and legibility issues, and so there's about 30 original visual displays that are in the process of being replaced by a local vendor. The Planning and Development Department continues to look at various upcoming development requests. The Stateside Landing, which is the 64-unit apartment complex, their site plans are pretty much approved pending submittal of a final set of plans. So that's moving along here very well, and that's for the 64 units. And as mentioned by a citizen earlier in this meeting, there's nearby property that would be subject to a rezoning request next month. That you'll hear more information about that in the upcoming weeks. The planning department is reviewing plans for townhome development within the villages of Cross Creek. Developer intends to construct 70 townhomes that would complement the existing townhome development in the Cross Creek subdivision off of 125. And other than that, there's also an Express Oil Change has submitted plans for review to the Development Review Committee for a new auto service center that would have 9 bays, and 3 would be oil change, 6 for service, located on Wheeler Street, which is behind Kentucky Fried Chicken or KFC restaurant on Premier Boulevard. Some other things that are going on as well. some special events in the community. Tomorrow is Wednesday, June 19th or Juneteenth, and a special event permit has been provided to applicant Kathleen Robinson for an event tomorrow here at Centennial Park from 4 until 9 p.m. And then on Friday, June the 21st, from 6 until 9 at Centennial Park, the Roanoke Valley Chamber of Commerce will have its Summer Music in the Park series. According to the flyer, this upcoming Friday night will host a Motown or beach music band called the 7th Hour for free music and entertainment in Centennial Park. And then on July the 26th, the karaoke will return with DJs Unlimited. And additionally, too, tomorrow is a holiday for Councilman Bell. We want to wish him a very happy birthday tomorrow. And then also during the May 21st council meeting, the June 4th meeting, Mayor Dowdy had requested an update on the nuisance violations that are in process through our Public Works Department. So I'm going to defer the remainder of my time to allow Larry to provide you with that information.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now that we got that handed out, I'm back again at the podium. So the mayor asked for this update, and so I'm just going to take you through it. We got page 1 and page 2. On the top of the first page, that first group of properties, there's 21 properties that we have communicated with, or we've enforced already, for having too much junk or stuff in their yard. Some of these properties, we could have been to more than once. We go get the stuff out of their yard, and they go drag more stuff back up in their yard. So quite a big list. There's 21 properties there. The next section, there's 62 properties that we constantly, for multiple years, go cut the grass. Okay? So that's the bottom section, is mainly just cutting grass or noxious overgrowth or things such as that. So these are reoccurring addresses. And then there's some addresses, by the way, I should have told you this. This is a moving target. Okay? This is changing every single day, these addresses on this list. So, for example, we just had to go to Henry Street Apartments, which is now Carriage Hill Apartments, and cut the grass for the residents there because it's knee high. So the people that own the apartments are not paying a vendor to cut the grass. And so when it gets high enough, it's a property and it's a residence, so we have to go there. And we had to take everybody we had because it's across 2 or 3 different streets. It's a pretty big area we have to go cut. So that's on the first page. If you go to the second page, this is just sort of a contrast for you. These are the regular city-owned property locations that we cut with our property maintenance people. So in all, there's about 5 people, maybe at times 6 people, cutting all this grass every day. Okay, so the first section are the big locations, so that's one crew. They just go from location to location to location. By the time they get through the list, it's time to start back over and go back and cut the grass again. Week 1 and week 2 is another team. Week 1, they cut all these locations. Week 2, they cut the locations on that list. So the same people that are cutting that grass are having to go cut this other grass. So we are never, ever without grass to cut. We cut grass every single day. And so typically for the junky lots, as we like to call them, for nuisance abatement, for junk in their yards, We typically attack those near in the fall when grass season kind of slows down a little bit, unless something is just really bad or something's really dangerous. Something really dangerous could be an appliance that's out in the yard that a child could crawl into, and that we feel like a child could suffocate. The ordinance covers that as well. So we're more immediate on things like that. So this just sort of gives you an idea of how many of these addresses that we deal with. And once again, this is a fluid list. This target is always moving. There are some that we've been looking at that are maybe not quite as big. And if we get the chance, let's say we just forego 1 week's grass cutting, then we may pick 4 or 5 of these that are manageable with 5 or 6 people and go try to remove things from these lots at one time. At the end of the day, to manage it any better than what we're doing right now, we would have to add to staff because we're just doing it all we can. I'll be happy to answer any questions about this. I'll be happy to take any of you on tours about this, talk about specific addresses or whatever, whatever questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Question, have we been receiving any funds when we building?
We do, actually. I'm glad you asked that question. So when we send a resident a 10-day notice based on the ordinance, something brought our attention to that property. It could be a phone call. It could be somebody stopping by or telling one of us, or me or my staff could be just riding along through town, or from the police department could say, hey, have y'all seen this grass over here? And so at that point, we decide whether it is out of compliance or not. If it's out of compliance, we send the letter to the address on Halifax County's tax site. Whatever that address is, it's where we send that letter to. And so we wait 10 days. In 10 days, if nobody's taken action at that, we are, by ordinance, we can go ahead and start enforcing it. We're probably not going to get there in 10 days. But whenever we get there, if they haven't done anything to that lot, then we're going to go ahead and take action on it. At that point, we're going to send a city invoice to the registered address on the Halifax County tax site. If we don't hear anything back from them, it will be converted into a tax lien against the property by ordinance. I hope I said that right, Jeffrey.
Yes, and I was just going to add, some of these properties here on this first sheet are, it's exactly like Mr. Chalker said, a lot of these properties are kind of, I don't want to say a habitual problem, but it kind of cycles in and out. Many of these properties are owned by the same individuals or the same corporations. I was just looking at some on this list that I know that have just recently been paid. And so I think that you see that sometimes with these is people will get delinquent in it and and the city will have to go out and cut the grass, will attach the liens, and then as it gets close to those liens being executed upon, whether that's through a tax foreclosure or some other thing, they'll go and pay that, and we'll receive that revenue. And so I can, just looking at these are several that have been dealt with recently. We have had some discussions with the county recently about trying to streamline this process as far as collecting on those liens through their foreclosure process, because so many times that's where it kind of comes up. And I think there was a period in the past where the county may have been skeptical about collecting city grass cutting liens. Our position has always been, the city's position, that when we do a nuisance abatement lien, for instance, many times it's grass cutting, but it could also be going out and picking up junk from a junky yard, is that when that lien attaches, that lien has the same dignity as a lien for unpaid taxes. So of course, I think most folks know that if you don't pay your taxes, you may have a bunch of other liens that attach to your property, but the taxes are going to get paid first when that property gets foreclosed on. Again, our position has always been that those liens are of the same dignity, and I think we're kind of at that place with the county now, and we're going to try to streamline the process and make it easier for those to be collected in a foreclosure rather than having to spend a bunch of time doing it and potentially end up in a situation which has happened in the past where somebody buys a piece of property in tax foreclosure and the grass cutting liens were never included as part of that, and so they end up buying a piece of property thinking they're a good faith purchaser, and they are a good faith purchaser, but don't realize that there are some liens, like a nuisance abatement lien, that could potentially survive that if it's not dealt with in the foreclosure action. So,
And to follow that, if you don't mind.
Yep.
308, if there's a comment at the bottom of the first page, 308 ordinance violations letters have been sent out this year to date. The total bill calendar year to date for lot abatement at this point, probably yesterday when I asked for this information, was $43,425. So we have billed that, and if whatever they don't pay of that will be assessed as a tax lien. And there's 23 more properties that were currently pending billing at the time of this capture of information. I just pushed that button. Also, I just want to make a note that once we get our OpenGov software for the finance department established, there will more than likely be a dashboard in that for this information for us to look at it at any given point in time, so we don't have to go manually collect so much of it. And that's a point that we didn't make before, but that would be so valuable, because I asked one person to get this information for me, and I was really surprised that he had it so readily available and he got it so quick, because there's a lot of stuff on these two pieces of paper. Also, I want to reiterate, we will be glad to go with you to each individual properties and talk about things or answer questions about them. At the point to where we have the manpower to go to a property to do an abatement, if we get there and somebody's loading stuff up in a dump truck or they're hauling stuff away, then we may give them 2 or 3 extra days. We're not going to forget about it, because when you're on the list, you're on the list. But if we see that you're trying to do work to your property and get it in compliance, then, we're going to try to do the right thing and be fair about it as well. All right?
What's the collection rate, Larry, as far as, like 50/50 or this 43,000, about how many pay?
Kurt, I'm not sure I have that. If I had to guess, I would say probably 40/60 if I had to guess, but I'm not sure that we have that nailed down. I know some people, when they get a bill, they're going to come pay it. But some people know that if they don't pay it, then somewhere way down the road, when somebody else has to deal with that property, they have to sell it, or it gets foreclosed upon or whatever, it can just be dealt with then. So some people know that.
That lien is not going away. I mean, it's going to be on there, and so when that piece of property has to be, when it's sold, when a lot of times folks that are not maintaining property, especially if you get into like air property and stuff like that, the taxes stop being paid, and so a lot of times it kind of comes through a Halifax County tax foreclosure too, and gets paid through that.
Mr. Chalk, I'd like to add, I know this is really aggravating stuff to do, but I want to thank you for staying on top of it, because it's desperately needed in this town, and this is really good to see. It really is.
Thank you. I just want to commend our staff and our employees. If you were outside today about 2 o'clock, the heat low was pretty good. It's going to get worse the rest of the week. They work really hard every day in this heat to perform this task, and it's a lot on here, and we appreciate them. They do the work, not me. I'm just here representing them.
Do you all adjust your hours for summer?
Thank you for asking that. During the summertime, when there are heat index warnings, we make on-the-go adjustments, and we may decide to pull crews in and do training, anything to get them out of the heat. We don't want them out having heat strokes. That's no good to us down the road.
But you don't start earlier.
That's another good point. Our sanitation crews are already starting earlier. They've already made that shift. So they're coming in at 6, and they're running straight to it, and they're getting off at 2. So it's really helpful for them to get out of the worst part of the heat.
Okay. It's very obvious that there are quite a few on here from your heading here, multiple years. And it's kind of contained to, I would say, 8 to 10 streets, it looks like. It's not, you see the same street mentioned a lot of times. So, and I agree with what Mr. Steinbach said. It's good to have you all doing it, but until something on the back end or the front end or whichever end needs to be, it's not being finished. And did you not say that they were trying to streamline the way, here's where I'm going with my comment. If we could get those houses foreclosed on, and the people that own them, didn't want them, and they go up for sale, maybe somebody would buy them that would pay the taxes. That would be the first benefit. The next thing, they'd probably start paying the lot cutting fee, but they would also renovate the house some. Or either it could be torn down and something new built. But right now, it's just kind of, to me, I know you all feel that same way. It's kind of a never-ending sequence. And go ahead.
It's like I say. I think there's a churn here with some of these properties. Some of them there's not. But the city can go out and execute on its liens. That is, we could essentially foreclose on the liens and essentially, I guess, sell the property to try to satisfy them, just like the county does for city and county taxes. There's a cost to that, and of course, the city doesn't want to end up with these pieces of property. We want to be them in the hand. We want them to be in the hands of private owners, and so I think it is kind of a case by case basis. It depends on the properties. And again, so many times what happens is on some of these, we'll go out there and cut it several times. The liens will start to accrue. They'll accrue tax liens. The county will foreclose on them, and then we can get our grass cutting liens paid through that. And that saves the city the cost of essentially paying me to go in and follow through that process, and the risk that we may have difficulty kind of going through that foreclosure process, not having the kind of resources that the county has to be able to do that. Because of course, in a piece of air property, I mean, I know I see it all the time, kind of dealing with these nuisance abatement and foreclosures. There is Michelle Mosley and the folks down in the county attorney's office do a lot of work to try to track down and make sure that they get notice to everyone. And when you have something like a piece of air property that may have 10, 12, I've seen a list of errors that goes actually down a first page and on to the next one on some of them. It does some of them, again, it's real property is unique in every situation, and in some of those situations the cost of doing that is going to be it's going to cost a lot more than the lien that we're attaching, or the liens that it has accumulated is worth. But like I say, I feel like we're kind of getting towards a better system than what we may have had in the past, just over the last, maybe calendar year. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nobody else has any questions? Ms. Johnson, you'll report.
Okay. I'll make this short. I'm sure everybody's ready to go home. So May 2024 year-to-date receipts was 16 million, around 16.5 million. Expenditures was around 16.1 million. That's year-to-date. So revenues exceeded expenditures by 380,000. We still have a lot of revenue to collect. We still have ad valorem for May and June, motor vehicle for May and June, sales tax for April through June, which we just got the sales tax. I think it was Monday. It was like 436,000 that we got for April. That's just for April. So you still have May and June. Hold harmless, we have April through June to receive. Utility franchise, we just got January through March payment, and that was around 416,000. So we are right on schedule. We will probably exceed what was originally budgeted for revenue. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Ms. Johnson? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank
So if we don't have anything else that needs to come before the council tonight, I do have one piece of information that I received upon my arrival here. It's not a piece of information that I take any joy in giving to you all and reading. I have a letter I want to read to you, but it is with just great joy that I have celebrated the last 11 or 12 years with Councilman Smith here with me. He has served this council very graciously. He has been very active in his duty ever since he has been here, and he's always had good conversation with people, and he didn't wait for them to call him. He would reach out to people anytime there was something that he felt like he could do and he could serve his community better. So I would read this. He asked me if I would read it tonight. It's dated today, June 18th, to Mayor Emery Dowdy. Dear Mayor Dowdy, please allow this letter to serve as my notice of my resignation from the Roanoke Rapids City Council. I submit this notice with mixed emotions. While it has been a great honor to serve the people of Roanoke Rapids, I know that the best thing for me is to retire as a city council member. During my tenure, I have appreciated your support and the support of my fellow council members. This month's meeting will be my last as a member. I wish nothing but the best for the city council and the city of Roanoke Rapids. Sincerely, Wayne Smith. So we all know that Mr. Smith has had some health issues, and he's made a remarkable recovery, and he's still continuing to recover. And it's a lot different sitting out there in those seats than it is sitting up here in these seats. I know we all have things that we have to deal with, but sometimes these up here that we deal with are real special, and they just kind of weigh on your mind a lot. And right now, I'm sure that Mr. Smith feels like that his health is of utmost concern to him, and so I just wish you Godspeed, and I'm sure you'll get better after you get some of this off of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here again. Thank you. All right. You will make a speech? Okay. I call for a motion to adjourn.